So, what I want to talk to you guys today about is caffeine. Caffeine wrecks your sleep, even if you don't think that it does. So, one thing that I hear all the time from people is, yeah, I can drink an energy drink or I can take a pre-workout that has tons of caffeine in it at 8 o'clock at night and still get a good session and then go home and knock out. Caffeine doesn't bother me. Well, it does. It just doesn't seem like it does initially. So the biggest myth is caffeine doesn't affect me. People say this all the time. Just like I said earlier, I can drink coffee at 5 p.m. and still fall asleep just fine. But falling asleep doesn't equal deep restorative sleep. The impact isn't always felt, but it can be measured. So a lot of people think caffeine actually gives them energy. If you drink an energy drink, you're like, oh man, I just got a big burst of energy. I'm ready to go. I can conquer the day, right? Well, that's not really how caffeine works. What caffeine does is caffeine blocks adenosine, which is the chemical that builds up and makes you feel tired. So if it blocks adenosine, that tiredness feeling that you had goes away, thinking that you just got this big boost of energy, right? When in an essence, you're now just less tired because adenosine has been blocked. So it doesn't actually give you the energy like so many people think that it does. Now, one thing about caffeine is it does stay in your system for 8 to 10 hours, and even small dosages later on in the day can disrupt your sleep cycle. So even if you do have a small, cup of coffee at 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's only 50, 60, 70 milligrams, right? Like that's still going to affect your sleep and be in your system for the next 8 to 10 hours. You may fall asleep, but you're not going to get into that deep restorative sleep that you need to recover. So, as always, sleep quality is going to triumph over sleep quantity. Caffeine can reduce the amount of deep sleep and REM sleep that you get, even if the total hours are the same. Kind of like last week when we talked about, all reps aren't the same, right? Well, all hours of sleep aren't the same either. If you do this, you'll notice that you wake up feeling unrested, still tired, pretty fatigued. You're more likely to wake up during the middle of the night as well too, and less physical and mental recovery kind of aspects happen overnight as well too. So it's essentially caffeine not only disrupts and blocks adenosine, but it does a lot more down, kind of the downstream effect as far as like a recovery. Physical, mental, and then that is going to tap into, if your sleep is off, then that's going to mess with your hormones. Like a lot of this stuff is kind of has that trickle down effect. So that, 2 or 3 o'clock pick me up caffeine drink could be doing you a lot of bad when you think it could be just helping you get through the actual work day. Um, and the biggest thing is outside of your sleep being hindered the night before, it's going to be hidden fatigue and what you feel the next day. So if you have poor sleep the night before from a caffeine intake, this can cause low energy, cravings, a workout, and just overall make you feel bad. Like I don't know how to describe it, right? Like I not mistakenly, but I did take some caffeine at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon a few weeks ago, and the next day, I just felt bad. Like I kind of had like a small lingering headache throughout the entire day. And it was because my sleep the night before just wasn't that great. I got to sleep, but I woke up several times during the night. And the only thing that I'd done different the day before was drink caffeine later in the day than I actually should have. This feeling could be something like you are dead tired, but you're also wired up at the same time. So, like if you try to lay down for a nap and you can't make your brain shut off, you're just wired, you're amped up. That's essentially caffeine still doing its effects. Then at that point, you would drink more caffeine to stay awake, right? To get over that tired feeling. But then that just further deepens the effect, right? This creates that vicious cycle. So if you, took caffeine the day before, a little too late in the afternoon, you had crappy sleep that night. The next day, you drank caffeine all day, right? Just enough to keep you up at work to keep you functioning, right? Your last drink of caffeine was at 4 o'clock before you left the office. Well, Now you just messed up your sleep for this night as well too, when last night was already compromised. So it just gets into this vicious cycle of, once you start drinking the caffeine and you keep using it as a crutch to get you by the next day, it's just going to keep compounding and compiling into the next day. And again, just creating that cycle that isn't going to be fun to get out of, essentially. Um, so if you are having this problem, about like everything else, audit what you're doing, audit your caffeine habits. If you're struggling with energy throughout the day, you're stressed or more anxious than normal, your sleep is off. It might not be your training or your macros. It could be your daily coffee. It could be something that you don't think about. That's why often if I have clients who are having an issue, whether that's with, their fat loss isn't moving the way that it needs to be, their, sleep is off, like something is just off, right? I get them to audit themselves. And typically the first thing that I make them do is send me pictures of their food, right? And then at that point, I'm like, hey, it's 3:30, 4 o'clock. Did you really take this meal 5 minutes ago? Yeah, I did. Is that coffee? Oh, yeah, I just got to get through my day, right? Well, there we go. That explains why the sleep was crappy the night before and why it will probably be bad, the following night as well, too. So again, always audit yourself. So if you have to drink caffeine, cut it out by 2 p.m. at the very latest. If you can track sleep quality for 1 week without that late caffeine usage. If you have an Apple Watch, wear it to bed. If you have the Whoop band or whatever, I do the same thing there too. And if you do have to take a pre-workout to get through those sessions for those evening workouts, use a non-stim. Don't use caffeine. There are other substances that you can use that will not have that delayed effect, that'll carry on into the next day or mainly through the night as well too. So, final takeaway here is if your recovery feels off and you do drink a good bit of coffee, consume a lot of energy drinks, things like that, the culprit may be that cup of coffee or that energy drink. Something that you thought that really didn't matter, right? I've had people come into the program, and on their initial intake, they're noting, I don't sleep very well. I get 4 to 5 hours a night max. That's just something that I've always struggled with. And then on their daily intake, they're talking about, oh, I drink 2 monsters a day before lunchtime. Like, all right, like even though that is, before that 2 p.m. cutoff, those monsters have what, 400 milligrams of caffeine. That's 800 milligrams that's staying in your system, and that's just going to keep you wired up and amped up all day long, and will eventually affect your sleep. Um, so again, the main takeaway here though is that you don't have to feel these effects for them to actually exist, right? You might can fall asleep just fine after taking a Bang energy drink at 9 o'clock at night. I don't know why you would do it, but that sleep is not going to be very quality sleep. It might be the same quantity as far as hours wise, hours that you're laying in bed, eyes are closed, but that quality of sleep just isn't going to be there. So if you're having this, small changes in your caffeine timing is something that you definitely could do. If you have to have it, just make sure, to have it at least 8 to 10 hours before your intended bedtime. If you go to bed at 9 o'clock, like me, um, then what that should be, what I say, 8 to 10 hours at least, at the very latest, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And it's 12:42 now. I'm going to go to the gym here shortly, and I'm not going to take any pre-workout at all. Mainly one, because I don't really need it. I have a lot of food in my system, and then two, it's getting close to that cutoff time for me personally. So finally, just give your sleep cycles a chance to work, a chance to do its job. Don't add caffeine in when it's too late. That could be affecting your results, even when you aren't really sure that does anything anyway. So